Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, we are now watching history in the making, because what is taking place in the state of Maine is really now becoming, in many ways, the battlefront in the war, not just over the future of the Democratic Party, but really control of Congress in November. And as many of you know, Graham Plattner, who, by the way, is a complete phony. The media keeps saying he's this oyster farmer, working class oyster farmer. No, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He comes from wealth. He comes from privilege. He's a complete fraud. But let that go. The Democrats now are putting him up as their nominee for the U.S. Senate in Maine. And they believe that if they can beat Susan Collins, and by the way, Plattner is leading Susan Collins, depending on the poll you look at, some polls have him up by 7, other polls have him up by 8, even 9%. So as things stand right now, unbelievably, incredibly, shockingly, he is on a path to victory. Now, it's not just that this would be a major pickup for the Democrats in order to retake not just the House, but in this case, the U.S. Senate. This is the race. The Democrats believe that if Plattner knocks off Susan Collins and the election then turns out the way they want it to turn out in other pivotal races, this will be the decisive race, the decisive seat that will tip the balance of power from a Republican-held Senate to Chuck Schumer being the next Senate majority leader, and the Democrats running essentially the table, having control of both the House and the Senate. So, in terms of a political race, all the marbles are at stake when it comes to the race in Maine. But what is also happening in Maine is we are now seeing the future shape of the Democratic Party take place right in front of our eyes. Plattner now has emerged as the AOC, the Mamdani, and many are now saying the young Bernie Sanders of the Senate wing of the Democratic Party. And this is why the Democrats, and again, incredibly, despite all of the baggage that now Plattner is bringing with him, he has become, to me, radioactive, toxic, downright dangerous, and more keeps coming out day after day after day. It doesn't matter. They're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. I've never seen this before. AOC is not just endorsing him, she's now campaigning for him. Bernie, the same thing. Elizabeth Warren now has not only endorsed him, campaigned for him, she's now saying, quote, he's her kind of man. The Democrats are now grooming him and looking at him as their future socialist superstar, the heir apparent to the mantle of Bernie Sanders. And they see in him the final piece, along with Mamdani in New York City, AOC obviously on the House side, to a new socialist, leftist, Marxist, very anti-Israel, anti-Semitic Democratic Party. So this new radical extreme Democratic Party is now being born in front of our eyes. And the Democratic Socialists of America, who are all in on Graham Plattner, say that Plattner is the man who will lead them to the promised land. He is the model candidate for them in terms of changing not just the Democratic Party, but changing the future of America. And with all of this now, with all of this massive money and political firepower that is now being put into Maine on behalf of Plattner, we have to ask ourselves, who is this man? And every day, it's a new scandal. Every day. And as I wrote on X last night, we have to start asking ourselves, in all seriousness, where do the Democrats find these guys? How the hell can Graham Plattner be a candidate for the U.S. Senate of any major party? In my view, he is objectively, just objectively, maybe the worst candidate ever to run in at least the last 50, if not 100 years. For 18 years, he had a Nazi tattoo, and not just any Nazi tattoo, an SS tattoo stamped right on his chest. And he only covered it up last year when he made a decision to run for higher office, to run for the Senate. So for 18 years, he was essentially a Nazi. He had a Nazi tattoo. He was comfortable with the Nazi tattoo until realizing, well, if I run for political office, it's going to become a liability, so let me cover it up. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. He is an avowed, a self-described communist. His words, a Jew hater, an anti-Semite, a supporter of Hamas, who has repeatedly cheered when Hamas has killed either Jews or Israeli citizens. Yesterday, it just came out from another one of his podcasts that he now denies the Armenian genocide. Now he's a genocide denier. Now it's come out, we talked about this regarding Purple Heart recipients, American soldiers who risked everything in the fight against the Taliban, and he went on social media platforms and he mocked them and degraded them and openly said that they should be murdered and killed by the Taliban. He literally is calling for fellow soldiers to be killed. And now, by the way, he's now revealed in all kinds of emails and text messages that he has a sexual fetish for public porta potties. I'm sorry, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't mean you to throw up your breakfast. But he has a thing for going to public, porta. The guy's a sick pervert. Well, now he's embroiled in a sexting scandal. Like every day it's something with this guy. So now the latest is this. According to his own wife, who he married apparently 3 years ago, when Graham Plattner decided to throw his hat in the ring, and he was about to get Bernie Sanders' coveted endorsement, along with Elizabeth Warren, she said that she wanted the campaign to know anything that could be used against him that she thought could be damaging to him, to the campaign. So to make sure he wasn't wasting his time, could he survive a scandal about his extramarital affairs? And so they put together a opposition research on him, saying, let's see what's the worst that we can find out about him, and let's see if it's enough, if the baggage is not too much, he can survive, and we'll just go on and back him. So she admitted to them that during the first months of their marriage, so they just basically tied the knot, that she found Graham Plattner sexting with at least 12 women. 12 women. Sexually explicit messages that he sent to multiple women. He was on a messaging app, a personal messaging app called Kik. Honestly, I've never heard of it before. K-I-K. Kick. K-I-K. It's a hookup site. It's where you go to hook up with women or girls or teenagers for a quickie, for a quick sexual encounter. It is a messaging app that is heavily used by pedophiles. Pedophiles. And now this story has been broken by the Wall Street Journal and other media outlets. Graham Plattner sent his wife to do a video to say that their marriage is strong. Okay, I really would like to load up the lines as quickly as possible. And I want to ask you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, really two key questions. One, will Graham Plattner win? Do you think he will beat Rhino Republican Susan Collins? Now, remember this, and I'm no fan of Susan Collins. As you know, I've been very critical of her, as I've been of all the rhinos. But this is a milquetoast rhino that we're talking about. This is no MAGA Republican. This is no MAGA conservative. I'm talking about Susan Collins. And so I'm looking at all of these liberals, all of these leftists, all of these Democrats, and you're willing to vote for a monster like Graham Plattner to unseat. In many ways, she's a centrist. Maybe even, you look at many of her votes and her views, almost center-left. She's a liberal Republican, one of the last few liberal Republicans left. I mean, it's, to me, it should be a no-brainer in Maine. Not that I like her, but she's infinitely more moderate than almost any other Republican out there. And you're telling me that Democrats have no choice but to vote for this guy? The Nazi SS tattoo? The porta potties? The sexual fetish, with the porta potties? Denying the Armenian genocide? Calling for the murder of Jews? An avowed Jew hater and anti-Semite? A man who says he's a communist and wants a communist revolution in the United States of America? Who, like Mamdani, says it's time to start confiscating private property? Who, by the way, completely wants to reopen the border, just so that you know. Utterly reopen the border. In fact, he says what we should do is we should return I don't know where we're going to live, but he says that we should return most of the land to Native American Indians. So I don't know where that leaves us, but anyway, by the way, a man who says that all white people are inherently, quote, racist and stupid. And he's white. So I guess he's racist and stupid. Like, I could go on and on and on. I mean, it doesn't end with this guy. And now, he's caught in this massive sexting scandal where he's been on this, caught having an account apparently for years, whereby he's been hooking up or sexting with sexually explicit messages on this hookup site, at least with a dozen women. And he's got a photo image that accompanies the account whereby, I don't know if you've seen it, it's disgusting, it's gross, but it's a mirror selfie of him bare-chested with just a towel around his waist. But you don't see his face. You just see his body with all of his tattoos and a towel wrapped around his waist. As he's trying to solicit women, I assume they're women, because that's the other thing now. Look, there's something about this that doesn't smell right. If you know anything about Kik, K-I-K, that's the messaging app, it is heavily frequented by pedophiles. It's known as a pedo app. Now, I'm not saying he's a pedophile. We don't know. but I don't know if he's into, let's say, very young women or they happen to be underage women. But I'm telling you, if you're on Kick, there's a lot of pedophiles on Kick. Okay? A lot of the Jeffrey Epstein types are on Kick. And this guy's been caught in a massive sexting scandal that his own wife brought up to the campaign, saying, I just want to make sure it's even worth our time for Graham to run. Because, I want you to know this is probably going to come out. And do you think politically is this insurmountable? Is this the kiss of death politically? And so the campaign looked into it, and they said, nah, we're going to say it's a private matter. We think you can survive this politically. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. And then to add insult to injury. And by the way, according to her, I'm just going by what she said. She said he was already sexting and going off with other women. She said this was in the first months of the marriage. They've only been married for 3 years. Now, look, I don't want to get into her motives. I kind of feel sorry for her, to be honest. She seems to me very insecure, very dependent, extremely low self-esteem. I don't know what she's doing with this loser. But to add insult to injury, he then, instead of defending himself, now he finally said something yesterday, but when this scandal broke over the weekend, he didn't go out Mr. Marine, tough guy, multiple tours in Iraq, with his Nazi tattoo, his SS, death's head tattoo. No. He sent his wife out. He sends the wife to do this humiliating video about how she loves him and respects him, and they have this phenomenal marriage. And even if it's not a good marriage, it's their business. It's no one else's business. And I'm watching this and I'm like, lady, you were the one that brought all this up. You were the one that told the campaign. This is how it all got leaked. This all came from you. You're telling everybody to mind their own business. You're the one that was talking about it and opened your mouth about it. I'm going to come back with what she said on the other side. And then I want to ask you the ultimate questions. One, will Graham Plattner win? Will the Democrats vote for this monster? And he is a monster. Okay, so just to lay it out for everybody. A man with a Nazi tattoo for 18 years who only covers it up because he's going to run for the Senate. That was last year. A Jew hater who goes on about how evil the Jews are, how celebrating Hamas whenever they murder Israelis, an anti-Semite to his very core, a man who says America needs a quote-unquote communist revolution. He's a self-avowed, self-described communist. And I mean, he does interview after interview, and they say, well, what are your politics? He goes, no, I'm a communist. I'm to the left of Bernie Sanders. I'm even more left-wing, if it's possible, than Bernie. He's a true believer in the Bolshevik revolution. He's openly said this. He says private property should be confiscated, period, full stop. And that all American land should be given back to Native American Indians, that the border, we don't have a right to have a border because we're such an evil, sinful, wicked country, that we should allow the entire world to come, basically to conquer the United States. He's openly said this. So he wants to reopen the borders. He wants to completely defund and abolish the police and all prisons and abolish ICE. He has said women who get raped deserve it. Women who are sexually assaulted deserve it. That's what he said again and again. Now it came out on a podcast a couple years ago. He said the Armenian genocide was a hoax, that the Armenian genocide never happened. I mentioned his fetish with these porta potties. He's sick. He brags about how he has a sex addiction and he has to go to these public porta potties It's a family show, so I'm not going to get too graphic, but to pleasure himself. Now, the latest scandal, and by the way, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I could go on and on about this guy. Okay, where did they find? He mocks Purple Heart recipients and says that our soldiers should have been killed by the Taliban. And he says he keeps watching videos of our soldiers fighting the Taliban, and he's laughing and saying that mother effer, meaning our guys, should have been killed because they were so stupid to confront the Taliban. I mean, this is the kind of, where did they find this guy? He's clearly got serious mental problems. He's a complete fraud. He's not an oyster farmer. He comes from money, spoiled. He's a spoiled rich kid born into privilege who hates himself, clearly. And by the way, says all white people, as I said earlier, I guess that assumes himself, are, quote, racist and stupid. So he's a self-hating white American. That's what this guy is. Who, by the way, admitted to doing a lot of drugs and a lot of alcohol, and I think it's done some serious damage to his brain. I'm just telling you the truth. Now, it turns out, he's been on this personal hookup site called Kik, K-I-K, where he's been involved, sending back and forth some of the most disgusting, sexually explicit messages to at least a dozen women that his wife caught him in the first couple months of their marriage. She was the one who divulged this to the campaign, to the Democrats. And now this scandal has come out. Now, I'm telling you, this is the ticking time bomb. KIK, look it up. It is a place it's a messaging app, a personal app, where a lot of pedophiles go. It's known as a pedo app. Now, I'm not saying he's a pedophile. We don't know that yet. But I'll bet you dollars to donuts. Those are young women. Those are young women he's been having sexually explicit messages with. And God knows what else if they actually did hook up. So, and the question is, were they overage or underage? That's now the question. And so this coward, after being caught now in this massive sexting scandal that's embroiling his campaign, on top of everything else, sends out his wife, and she does a video. So she has to, stand by her man, stand by his side, and then alone in the video, she's now trying to douse or throw some water on this burgeoning public firestorm. This is the wife, Amy Gertner, defending Graham Plattner. Roll cut 5, Mike.
We love each other deeply. So it makes me really angry, disappointed, and I find it really shameful that there's a group of media outlets and people who are willing to spread gossip instead of talking about real issues that Graham is running on, like healthcare and education and childcare.
Yeah, don't play the victim. You were the one that divulged all of this information. You were the one that told the Democrats. You were the one that told the campaign. You were the one that said, no, it's on Kik. I'll show you exactly. She literally said, it's at least a dozen women. At least 12. Here are the messages. Here's one. Here's another. Here's another. Here's his personal account. Here's the image of him. The selfie, the mirror selfie of that idiot. And by the way, it is so creepy for a man his age to be taking a picture of his chest, off of a mirror with the tattoos and just a towel around his waist. Okay, a married man. Now, listen to her saying, no, hey, we've never been more in love. We've never been happier. My God, he's my dream husband. Roll cut 5A, Mike.
Being married is hard. Being newly married is hard. Being newly married and going through infertility is hard. Being newly married, going through infertility, and a Senate campaign is hard. I don't even know if I have the right words to describe what we've been going through.
And she's laughing, she's giggling. But, as she's telling us how hard this is. Well, nobody put a gun to your head. I mean, you don't have to run for the Senate. Marriage is hard. Being newly married is hard. Well, yeah, if he's constantly cheating on you, yeah, I don't think that would be nice. I mean, I know I wouldn't like it if my wife cheated on me, and since you keep bringing up, I didn't bring up the infertility, you did. Well, maybe if he wasn't running around with other women, maybe you'd be pregnant by now. I'm just thinking out loud here. One more. Roll cut 5B, Mike.
I admire the of him. So when there are news articles about our marriage, it's just extra. Can I say that online? I hope I can. Ay.
He's a really low-class scumbag, and that wife is also very low-class. I admire the blank out of him. You're a classy lady. Okay, my friends, Graham Plattner now, unbelievably, after scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal, and he is still leading Susan Collins by 7 to 8 percentage points. Maine Democrats are rallying around him. Even more incredibly, Bernie Sanders now says he is the future of the Democratic Party. Elizabeth Warren has not just endorsed him, but said he's, quote, her kind of man. AOC, they're all lining up now. Mamdani saying Graham Plattner could be president, that he now, in their view, is carrying the torch of the socialist far left. He is the prince, the heir apparent to Bernie Sanders. They believe he will win, knock off Susan Collins, and then deliver the Senate to the Democrats, and that Plattner will then become a superstar for the Democratic Party and maybe their standard bearer going into 2032 or 2036. So they are grooming him to be the next Barack Obama. I'm not making this up. And yet the baggage keeps piling up. And so I just want to read a couple of texts, and then I want to go right to the phone lines. 70470, if you want to text into the show. 70470. This is from 617. Jeff, the Democrats spent years calling Trump a Nazi, and now it seems they support one. Please help me make it make sense. I don't know what else to tell you. I can't. Unless it was always, of course, what we said, it was projection. They were calling him a Nazi and a fascist because they know deep down they're all Nazis and fascists themselves. And not only are they voting for one, but they're championing one. And I've never seen them champion a candidate like this. So what does that tell you? Another one. This is from 781, and I've been thinking about this as well. Jeff, regarding his wife, Amy Gertner, how do you sleep with a Nazi? Well, yeah, but just to add to what you're saying, and I'm sorry, I don't want to seem a prude, but, the guy had an SS tattoo on his freaking chest. I don't know, it wasn't like on his back or on his ankle or whatever, on his calf or... So, you're with the guy in the bedroom. I don't mean to be graphic, but you're with the guy in the bedroom, you see the tattoo. The SS tattoo is staring at you the whole time. Yeah, maybe she has one too, Mike says. For all we know, maybe she's got one. And maybe that's how the two of them hit it off, I don't know what to say. Ay. I mean, I'm just saying, ay, 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 ay. Okay, one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. This is from 781. Jeff, what are the odds that Plattner is quote-unquote sexting with his online harem inside the porta potties? Ah, you know what? I think you got him, 781. I think that's exactly what's happening. Tommy in Brockton. So anyway, the guy's a pervert. Okay, let's just put, I mean, he's a sick pervert. And by the way, he's doing better with women than men. His base of support are white liberal women, college-educated women, and get this one, especially younger college-educated liberal women, like in their 20s and 30s, what I mean by younger. And when you push them, I'm not kidding, they find him sexy. Is it the Nazi tattoo? Is it the porta potty? Is it the Jew hatred? Is it seriously, is it when he says women get raped, they deserve it? Like, what is it? That he likes to smack women around? That he, and that turns you on? Like, can somebody explain this to me? 617-266-6868. Tommy in Brockton. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
I think what we're seeing here is a generational shift of morality. And, I retired as an electrician in September 2018. I took a dispatch to a job in Medway, Massachusetts. They were doing a powerhouse, gas-fired powerhouse. And there were a bunch of guys that had worked at the Salem powerhouse previous to that job. And they caught an electrician on a job in a porta potty. I don't know his age, but he was punching the clown or watching porn on his cell phone. Okay, I was in hysterics when I was told about this. This story gets better. There was also a man and a wife, a couple, along with another man that filmed themselves engaging in sex acts, and they were on the job. And and the organization that I belong to later on in the month of May, because I took the dispatch in April of that year, they have a cornhole tournament. So one of my favorite apprentices, I text messaged to him. I said, Matty, I didn't sign up to be part of a Hollywood musical with this organization. What the hell's going on within my union? So anyway, like I say, there's just a morality with a different generation now. That I'm 66 years old. I would have never thought to do something like that in my 20s. So, I had a lifelong friend and his wife visit me last year at my place in West Virginia, and they hate Trump with a passion. These are the kind of people that do the No Kings protest stuff. And I didn't want to get into politics because I've known this guy ever since I was probably 2 years old. That's how far back we go. He was a very good friend in high school, and I don't want to damage a friendship over politics. But all they could talk about was, Mayor Pete would make a good president. Kamala Harris should have won the election. And I didn't tell them that I voted for Trump. Occasionally I would chime in the conversation, but essentially, instead of talking about a lot of the old time stuff we do, and his wife seemed to be driving the conversations, about how Rachel Maddow was such a great journalist and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, they don't want to know my opinion. And like I say, I just don't want to damage a friendship that I've known this individual for years. But they live up in Maine. He's a Massachusetts transplant. That he's always been a liberal. And truth be told with me, if this was 1988, I was a staunch Democrat, and I was very liberal in my views. sometime in my 30s, early 30s, is when I started thinking, wait a minute, I know I'm a Democrat, but what do these other people that call themselves progressives are? And I came to the conclusion that they were communist light, and a lot of them are just miserable people by nature, and they have to be in other people's business. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy Plattner can survive this scandal and win the election in Maine. But the other thing that needs to be discussed, he also made disparaging comments about Chris Kyle, the sniper, as well as a guy who won a Purple Heart.
That's right.
Who basically brought himself into harm's way, drawing attention away from his other soldiers.
He took 4 bullets.
4 bullets.
Yeah, he took 4 bullets. Yep.
On social media and call, just insult him that way. It tells you everything about this guy Plattner, and he will sell out the state of Maine to the highest bidder. And I don't know. I guess it's just a societal change. And all I can say is, Kuhner country, that if you don't vote in the primaries, whatever state you're in, and you don't vote in the general election, if the Democrats take over this country, you will see Puerto Rico, you will see Washington, D.C. become states, and we will have 2 more states that will have 4 more United States senators, and they will stack the Supreme Court. You can pretty much kiss the Second Amendment goodbye and many other things, as well as the First Amendment. So, if you're going to be one of these people that, my vote doesn't count, and I really don't like the fact that they didn't release the Epstein files, I don't know what to tell you. We're at a fork in the road in this country, and I don't know, Jeff. I just throw my hands up with where I hear some of your callers. And by the way, your caller Bill from Sudbury, I enjoy you engaging with him. But the point is with Bill, when you ask him a direct question, he never answers it. He always goes to the whataboutism. And you should allow people like Bill to call in for people like us that I would say I'm a rational person. And you understand their mindset. And, you got to know your enemy.
Oh, Tommy, I agree with you. Well, that's why I let him on. And that's why I let other Moonbats on. Because people say, well, why, Jeff? I'm like, exactly your point. You got to know your enemy. Just listen to him. Just 30 seconds a minute. And you're like, oh, my God. I go, yeah. That's who's supporting Plattner, or that's who's supporting Bernie, or that's who's supporting AOC, or that's who's going to be supporting Kamala in 2028. Like, you have to understand, these are the voters that are going to put the left, the radical left, as you put it, communist light, the Marxists in power. Tommy, before I let you go, your friends from Maine, the Moonbats, and you didn't want to debate with them in politics because, you don't want to break the friendship. I get it. Did you ask them, are they going to vote for Plattner? And what did they tell you?
With them since, because I know if I give a phone call, it'll be about politics. And the last time that I had called him prior to the visit to West Virginia was after there was that mass shooting with the individual up there. I think it was in Lewiston, Maine, maybe a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago. And all of a sudden it just started going into Trump and all that. And I just, I only called because they live near that area. And I just called out of concern. 18 people were shot, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And it's just one of those things of where, I have people that were extended relations through a previous marriage that they are the same way about Trump, that they just hate him. And you know what? Sometimes you just got to cut your losses is how I look at it. These individuals in my past life with them, I did an awful lot with them financially, if you know what I'm saying.
I understand. I understand. Tommy, I hear you. I really hear you. Tommy, as always, thank you so much for that call. Look, let me throw this log on the fire very quick. Is anybody planning, say from Maine, planning to vote for Plattner? I want to hear from you. Tell me why. Tell me why. I'm not even going to debate with you, I promise. I just want to ask you why you're supporting this man with all of this baggage, all of these scandals, everything that's now come out about him. And I just want to hear from you why you think he's better than Susan Collins, or why you're willing to vote for him. If you're supporting him, let's say you're donating money or you just like him, you don't live in Maine, I want to hear from you. I really want to hear from you why you think this man should be the next senator from Maine, but more importantly, the poster child now for the new Democratic Party. Why he should now be the next Bernie Sanders as he's now being coronated. 617-266-6868 is the number. The voice and the spokesman for the Democrat progressive movement. That's now how he's being viewed by the media, certainly by many Democrats. Jim in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Jim?
Good. I just want to offer perspective on this. Again, this is anti-war Jim, who's an independent, big-time MAGA supporter of the original MAGA movement. Anyways, I just need to show some common sense and vision on this. So why did people, especially young people under 50, vote for Bernie or Zorin or Plattner or Trump or Ron Paul? It's because they all had the same message. Now, I understand there's definitely personal issues. There's a lot of personal issues with Trump. I defended him viciously to Democrats about, character flaws, whatever, because it was about policy to me. Now, what was the policy all these people share that are popular amongst young people? It's anti-war is a big one. Anti-war, not spending trillions and billions of dollars on especially Middle Eastern wars. It's corruption. It's crony capitalism. It's lobbying. It's insider trading. And now with a lot of the younger generation, it's AI. They see what that can do. They see that needs to be addressed. I'm a big fan of capitalism and what it can do, but there needs to be some things that need to be discussed, and AI is one that could affect, especially the younger generation. So the thing about Plattner is, yes, he has a lot of personal things that are very disagreeable, but his message is what people are going with and is driving a lot of young people to vote for him or want him. Now, again, during Trump had a lot of things he said that I defended, a lot, but it was policy. I will stand by policy all the time. And unfortunately with Trump, what happened was, we had people like Massey, Tucker, and Marjorie Taylor, who were huge Trump supporters, who were with those policies. Anti-war, let's get rid of the swamp. That's a big one. And he ended up going Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, and Ben Shapiro, who were basically never Trumpers, who never wanted Trump because he didn't want to support their, again, same policies, war and everything else. And so a lot of independents feel betrayed by that. A lot of people the people on the left are going to vote on the left regardless. And a lot of people on the right that are under 50 that don't watch Fox are feeling that way too. So the whole thing about a grant, I just wish the Republicans, what they did to Massey to me was, I think it was the biggest, that was the nail in the coffin for the Republican Party for the younger generation. And if they supported people like that, that want really good policy, that want to, drain the swamp, that want to end corruption, that want to get out of endless foreign wars, then the Republican Party would be strong, but they got some on the other side that brings a lot of baggage with him because he's speaking that message. And if you've noticed over the last 20, 30 years, we've had the same neoliberal, neoconservative policies, and the younger generation is fed up. It's been change election after change election. People just don't know where to go anymore. So they're trying to stick with the same message. Now, the candidate has changed. Remember that, Jeff. The candidate has changed, whether it's Obama, Bush, or Trump, or Biden. But the message has always been the same. No war. Let's get rid of this corruption, this crony capitalism. Let's have a functioning government. Let's bring the deficit down. And let's focus on the affordability. It's always been affordability, and it's the same message. Just different person every time. So that's what's happening. I just want the Republicans to recognize that and really get their candidates that support that message. And you won't have Grant Plattners. You won't have the people like that bring that baggage.
Well, look, Jim, I hear you, and I think you're right on many issues, obviously, on inflation, on affordability, on no more wars, constant, military interventions around the world. I could go on. But you look at Graham Plattner, and if we can just leave Trump out of it or Thomas Massey, because, he's the focus of today, what does he offer young people? Open borders? I mean, that's what he's calling for. Amnesty for every single illegal alien? Well, that's going to wipe them out. Confiscating their private property, confiscating their bank accounts, the nationalization of all industry. I mean, he's a Bolshevik. He wants to start persecuting Jews in the United States. He says there is a Jewish conspiracy that now must be smashed. You say, he's against foreign wars. He's a big supporter of Hamas. Loves Hamas. He's a big supporter of the war against Russia. He's a big supporter of Ukraine. So, I could go on and on with this guy. You want to, completely abolish the police? He's your guy. You want to abolish prisons? He's your guy. So, I could just go on and on. And look, to me, it's a question of character when everything is said and done. To me, to wear a Nazi SS tattoo, you are one sick puppy. I'm sorry, you just are. When you praise Joseph Stalin, as he does, and identify yourself as a Bolshevik, a system of mass murder and genocide that killed over 100 million people, when you say that members of the military that you served with, are effing, are blanking mother effers who should be shot in the head. There's something seriously wrong with that guy. When you say women who are raped deserve it, when women who are sexually assaulted deserve it, when, every time he talks about gay people, it's always, the F, I can't say it, but the F slur. I'm just going on and on. When you're laughing and saying that there was no Armenian genocide, when there was over a million Armenians systematically slaughtered by the Ottoman Turks. And when you're going on hookup apps, we're not talking personal issues. He had an affair here, he had an affair there, it's between him and his wife. When you're going on hookup apps that pedophiles use, and God knows, and you can't stop yourself. I'm just going by his own admission that you have to run to a porta potty to pleasure yourself. That he's a sex addict. I'm sorry, what is that offering young people? So, what? Because he rails against the oligarchy? Because he tells them, like a good communist, I'll take from the rich and give to the poor? I'm sorry, Jim, he's offering them nothing except misery and poverty and oppression and totalitarianism. You get, enough people like him in power and we become communist China. So, I understand you're talking about Thomas Massey. Massey's a libertarian. Massey wants the exact opposite of what this guy wants. I want the opposite of what this guy wants. So, Jim, to me, this guy is poison. And that and not just that they're going to vote for him, hold their nose and say, oh, he said a few controversial things, I'm going to vote for him because I like his program. What in his program is there to like? And we're not just talking about, a few personal issues. The man is a monster. So after this, look, to me, I think it's very clear what propelled him over Janet Mills. Because if you look at Janet Mills, politically, there's very little. She's a sitting governor. She's against ICE, like him. Abolish ICE, check. Open borders, check. Amnesty for illegals, check. Sanctuary state, check. Tax the rich and give to the poor, check. Government-run nationalized healthcare, check. And I could run down the whole issues. Defund police, check. Then he says, no. I'm going to take people's private property and their bank accounts, and we're going to give it to Native American indigenous people. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470, 70470. This is from 508. Jeff, what does it say about Graham Plattner and his wife, Amy? Two people and yet they need 3 therapists. They got problems. That's what it says to me. You know, but the Democrats don't care. And I think the reason why, there's many, but I think, and this is from 617. Jeff, and I think this sums it up, I think, extremely well. Jeff, I have been engaging with Plattner supporters online. There are 2 things that strike me the most. One, they are overwhelmingly female, white, liberal women. And secondly, they are consumed with Trump derangement syndrome. If you watch a Plattner rally, and I'll be honest, it is very tough to take. It turns your stomach. But if you actually watch one of his rallies, he gives them a very, very powerful message that he hates Donald Trump and that he will take from the rich and give to them. He is playing on hatred and envy. And those are 2 very strong emotions. I think that sums it up very, very well. To me, what is incredible, I mean, and that's what I was trying to get at with Jim, the previous caller. Don't ever talk to me about being a Nazi. Don't ever talk to me about Trump being a Nazi. Don't ever talk to me about conservatives being Nazis, not after supporting this guy. And the Democratic Party is now clearly an anti-Semitic party. There's no getting around it now. I think it's almost animated, defined by anti-Semitism. Because that's Plattner to a T, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Mamdani, AOC. You know, as someone wrote on the text line, Jeff, what Plattner is AOC with a beard and an oyster clam necklace. I think that's pretty much it. And notice now, Bernie, an avowed communist, AOC, an avowed communist, Mamdani, an avowed communist, Plattner, an avowed communist. I could go on and on. So these are people self-described. Say, no, I'm a communist. I believe in communism, starting with the seizure and confiscation of people's private property. Now, now there's still a civil war going on within the Democratic Party, but you can see which side is winning and which side is losing. And I think what Bernie loves about Plattner and Warren, and when they say he's our kind of guy, he's ruthless. He's like a Trotsky or a Lenin in their view. He will get into the gutter, and he's not afraid to take prisoners. And you can see that. There's a ruthlessness in this man. He mocks the death of Americans. He's not afraid to go after Jews aggressively. He's not afraid to say they belong in detention or concentration camps. He's not afraid to say we have to wipe out the enemy. In other words, he's an American Bolshevik, the kind of Bolshevik they've been looking for a long time. He's a fighter. 617-266-6868. Eddie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Kuhner, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Eddie? You're up there in Maine. What can you tell us about Plattner? And Eddie, why is he popping? Why is he resonating with so many Mainers?
Maine has always been like this. I'm telling you, I call it a Soviet Union Maine. That's what I call it. But unfortunately, I have a lot of relatives that actually are going to vote for this clown. You know, I don't figure it out. They hate me because I voted for Trump, and I really push him out. Yes, and not only did I vote for him, I plan on voting for him a 4th time. But can I just change the subject for a second?
Eddie, just before you do, though, just 1 second, please. When you say to them, hey, look, you know, the guy had a Nazi tattoo for 18 years. The guy is a Jew-hating anti-Semite. The guy is involved in a sexting scandal, potentially with underage girls. The guy, mocked Purple Heart recipients and said American soldiers should be shot in the head. When you mention this, the guy says women who got raped deserve it. What do they say to you, Eddie? How can they vote for this monster? Okay, let's go right back to Eddie in Maine. Eddie, I obviously want you to make your other point, but before you do, when you mention all of the scandals, one after another, the Nazi tattoo, the porta potties, the sexting, the anti-Semitism, I could just go on. Him saying women who get raped deserve it. I mean, really, look, just objectively, he's a racist. He's a Nazi. He's a communist. He's a misogynist. He's homophobic. I mean, he's everything supposedly Democrats say they hate. And yet he checks every single box. And yet they're still going to vote for him. When you ask them this, what's their answer to you, Eddie?
They're all brainwashed Democrats. I'm telling you, this guy is promising them stuff, all free stuff. I got relatives. I'm 74 years old. They've been on the dole all my life. And I told you once before, when I hear Bill from Sudbury speak, I got an uncle, I swear that's his brother from a different mother. I'm telling you. And this guy, he could win in Maine. I'm telling you. Look at Bernie Sanders. He keeps winning and winning and winning. Yeah? Interesting. Eddie, please, I know you want to make another point. Go ahead, my friend. I wonder any way we could start a rally to send a message to John Thune that we want him to resign. That SAVE Act should have been on President Trump's desk Monday. Here it is Tuesday. Our so-called politicians are nowhere to be found. They're going to push it off and push it off. That act got to go through to save us. That's the only way we can win the next 28 election. What do you think, Kuhner?
Oh, Eddie, I agree with you. I mean, yes, you're right about 2028, but to win 2026, we need the SAVE Act as well, because they are going to steal. The Democrats are going to cheat. You're going to see massive voter fraud and corruption. Look, they have to break Trump. They have to. They know that he's an existential threat to their power, and they're going to pull out all the stops. No, Thune stabbed us in the back. Eddie, I hate to say this, but we're not going to see the SAVE Act until we remove John Thune as Senate Majority Leader and get someone who really wants to implement Trump's conservative, MAGA, pro-America agenda. You're not going to get the SAVE Act. He's controlled opposition, just like the Republican Party here in Massachusetts. They are paid to lose. Once you understand that, you understand everything. And that's the rhinos in a nutshell. And that's Thune. That's why I'm so happy the rhinos have been getting defeated lately in these primaries. Bill Cassidy in Louisiana, John Cornyn in Texas, hopefully Lindsey Graham in a couple weeks in South Carolina. We shall see. But that's what these rhinos do. They're there to help Democrats win. They're there to sabotage and undermine Trump. And look here, just look at the anti-weaponization fund. It was the rhinos in the Senate who forced the DOJ, Trump's Department of Justice, to now drop the anti-weaponization fund. So all those poor people, not just the J6ers, everybody that was persecuted, harassed, victimized, falsely imprisoned, falsely investigated, had their lives destroyed under the Biden regime, are not going to get a penny in compensation. And who led the charge? Yes, it was the Democrats. But who ultimately, forced Trump and the DOJ to drop it? It was the Senate Republicans led by John Thune and Tom Tillis and Barrasso and Cornyn and Cassidy and Collins and Murkowski and McConnell. I mean, it's the same gang. And so they screwed the American people again. So you're completely right, Eddie. we've got to get rid of Thune. He has to be replaced as the Senate Majority Leader because nothing of consequence is going to get passed, starting with the SAVE Act. Eddie, thank you so much for that call. Ken in New Hampshire, thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Ken.
I dare say this is a gift. It is too funny. Do I think that Platten is going to win in Maine? Hell no. Let me break down the demographics for you. There's Portland, and there's the rest of the state. You know, Maine's a lot like Oregon, isn't it? But it's not that bad. Oregon is hopeless. There's too much of a Portland domination for the east part of Oregon to ever really have any control. Maine is a different story, Jeff. This is a great story. Do you really think Susan Collins is going to lose to Graham Pattner feminism? Graham Pattner feminist? Who are we kidding? So let's break it down. There is Portland. All right. Do you know what percentage of Boston, the city of Boston, voted for Kamala Harris?
Oh, I would assume it's got to be at least 90%, right?
Okay. So that's our baseline. Guess what it was for Portland?
What, 60?
84.
84, okay.
Higher than Boston. They're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in the Portland area. So let's look at Portland. Portland population 70,000. The greater Portland area is population 550,000. There's where we got the problem. They vote 2/3 blue on a pretty consistent basis. Now, the rest of the state, though, because there's a total population of 1.4 million, they're red. They're about as red as Kansas. Way different profile. And then you look at the polls. You're relying on the polls. The Platinum's up by 7. No, you ain't. What really matters, Jeff? What matters is November. Do we have a track record of Susan Collins elections in the past? Where was she in the polls the day before election, the last couple elections that she had? Have any idea?
Oh, you're saying she was behind, so you think she can pull it off again on Election Day, correct?
Certain she was going to lose, and then she ends up winning by more than 5. How did that happen? Now, I'm not saying it's a rigged polls. What I'm saying is, if I'm a pollster, this is the last place I want to go to get accurate polls. You know why? Because that rest of the red Maine doesn't want to have anything to do with those damn pollsters, right? Am I right or wrong?
Well, it's very interesting, Ken. Look, I hope you're right. I truly hope you're right. Look, I have to say this about Susan Collins. Now, if I was living in Maine, I would vote for her. Over Graham Plattner, to me, Mickey Mouse is better than Graham Plattner. To me, Graham Plattner is an offense to my dignity. Say if I was a Mainer. Anybody with this guy's track record, really, when I say monster, I'm choosing my words very carefully. Okay, this man he's a bottom feeder. He's a scumbag. So to me, it's just that simple. Look, anybody that puts an SS, if you know anything about the Nazis, the SS were the worst of the worst. They were the executioners, the liquidators. These were the ones that implemented the annihilation, the extermination, not just of the Jews, but of all the opponents of the Nazi regime. And you put their tattoo on your chest for 18 freaking years? You know, and I'm sorry. Look, since they keep bringing up their love life, they're the ones that keep throwing it in our face. And to the wife, you slept with that man? With that tattoo on his chest? You are one sick lady. I don't care. She can call me any name she wants. And he only covered it up last year. I keep mentioning this. You know, it's not like this guy had a come to Jesus moment. He said, I got to run. And they said, well, yeah, but you can't run with that tattoo on your chest. Okay, so I'll cover it up. So you're talking about one of the most virulent, disgusting anti-Semites you could ever find on this planet. Never mind that he loves Iran. Never mind that he loves Hamas. Never mind that he's called for Jews to be murdered and killed. Never mind that he's an admirer of Lenin. Never mind that he's a Bolshevik. Never mind that he likes to masturbate in porta potties and he's a sex addict and he brags about it. Never mind now that he's been caught in this disgusting sexting scandal where he's on a pedophile app and, with sexually explicit messages. What is it? 2 or 3 months after he's married to this woman. And who knows what's going to come out today. Yesterday it came out, he said the Armenian genocide never happened. I mean, every day with this guy, he cheers on the murder or the attempted murder of his own fellow Marines and vets in Afghanistan. And you're going to vote for this guy? I don't respect you. I'm sorry. And you claim to be a liberal. You claim to be a progressive. So, no. You vote for a Nazi? Okay, just very quickly, because the scandals are piling up. One after another, after another, after another. And so Democrats now are being asked, every single one of them, do you support Graham Plattner? And what's happening is, as I said, it's not just that they're supporting him. They're doubling down, tripling down. I've never seen anything like this. There are a few that are showing a little bit of hesitation. But even then, they say we're going to back him. And you want to know why they're going to back him? Here it is. This is New Jersey Senator, I am Spartacus, Senator Cory Booker. He's on ABC. And they're saying, now there's a sexting scandal. That's the latest one. Maybe should the Democrats cut this guy loose? Listen to Booker's response. Roll cut 8, Mike.
Do you have concerns with the weight of all these controversies that it may jeopardize Democratic hopes to get that Senate seat in Maine?
Yeah, I have concerns. That guy has questions to answer, and that's what campaigns are for. But when I go all over New Jersey and see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans losing their health care and millions more seeing their health care costs go up, as I have families who say I can't afford gas for my car and childcare for my children, I know that so much is riding on Democrats taking control of the Senate. That this election, if we do not get the votes necessary to take care of the House and the Senate, we will continue to have an out-of-control president. And I'm going to tell you right now, as he is a lame duck president, he's becoming more and more dangerous. Just look overseas at the war we're in, the lives being lost, the billions being spent, and now he is shamefully trying to crawl back and try to get us back to where we were before the war even started. This man is dangerous, and it's time that we take back the Senate.
Now, you see, so we got to take back the Senate. We're in with Graham Plattner. I mean, forget all the propaganda against Trump, okay, the Trump derangement syndrome. It's, we've got to take back the Senate. I'm in with Graham Plattner. Now, notice, it's Trump who's dangerous, not Plattner. This is what I find just absolutely incredible. The guy, let me be, how do I say this? I don't want to say something that's going to get me in trouble in terms of swearing on the air. So let me just be very careful how I phrase this. The guy's a creep. I mean, he's a Nazi scumbag. There's no question. But the guy is a creep. And he sends chills down the spine of everybody who knows him. And when you see a man at his age with a mirror selfie on a hookup site used by pedophiles, or at least heavily frequented by pedophiles, and an image of him with, his bare chest and all his tattoos and just a towel around his waist, and with some of the most disgusting, vile, sexually explicit messages to at least a dozen, and I'm saying women, let's put it this way, young, very young women. And I want to know if they're overage or underage. That's what I want to know. But you guys are willing to overlook all of that? Women have it coming to them if they get raped? That's what this guy says? Refers to gay people as, the F word? Okay, let me just say bags, but, with an F. This guy who loathes and despises Jews. a 2-decade-long admirer of the Nazis and of the SS. Now he's become a kind of a national Bolshevik who says what America needs is a Leninist, communist-style revolution. If you want, I can play you cuts of this creep on these podcasts. And he is creepy. He sounds creepy. Abolish the Electoral College. Completely stacked the Supreme Court. Puerto Rico, Washington estates, put them in. Add 4 more Senate seats for the Democrats. How conservatives are the enemy of the Republic. And that enemies need to be destroyed and crushed. How we need to confiscate and seize private property. How we should be paying trillions in reparations to blacks for slavery. How this entire country is built on absolutely stolen land from Native American Indians, and we should be giving all of the land back, which begs the question, where do we live? I'm not talking about abolish ICE, reopen the borders, massive amnesty, flood the country with 20, 30, 40, 50 million illegals. I could go on and on and on. You want my honest opinion? I wouldn't be shocked if this guy's a plant for communist China. I wouldn't. Because everything that this guy is espousing is pushing a civil war in the United States. The complete destruction of America. It's impossible to be more left-wing than this guy. It's impossible. I'm telling you, it's impossible. And, and the amazing thing, and I want to get to this with the audience a little bit later, that he has such appeal among Democrats, young Democrats, and overwhelmingly young female, young liberal women Democrats. They love him. And I mean, they love him like he's a rock star. I think that's why so many are sleeping with him. And I'm sorry, the porta potty fetish, I mean, that's sick. I mean, he talks about it. He goes, he loves it. He can't, when he sees he runs to a porta potty. That's it. Closes the door and does his thing. That sexually, nothing turns him on more than this. A public porta potty. You know how disgusting that is? And you've got young college-educated women, they're throwing themselves at this guy. Like he's a rock star. So why are so many women drawn to him? Why are so many liberal Democrat women drawn to him? And this guy goes through red line after red line after red line about everything the Democrats say they're against. They say they're against racism. He's a racist. They say they're against anti-Semitism. I don't think you can be a worse anti-Semite than him. The big one is Hitler and the Nazis. Hitler and the Nazis are the worst thing you can be. Well, that's him with a tattoo, bang, right in the middle of that chest. They say you can't be homophobic. You got to hear him on these podcasts. It's F this, F this, F this, F this. The F slur for gays. The way he talks about women. I mean, bang them here, grab them here. They make Trump. They're going on about the Billy Bush tape. You got to listen to this guy on his podcasts. She had it coming. Woman gets raped. She likes it. She wants it. Where'd you find this guy? Where did you find this guy? And then, and say, well, Jeff, there was no alternative. You had that crazy moonbat governor, Janet Mills. No, they wanted someone more radical. So the question is why? Now, my theory, and then I want to go to you. When they were running against each other, she suspended her campaign. But it was really at the height of the support for Hamas in the war with Israel. and especially now with our war with Iran. And Plattner came out strongly in favor of both Hamas, Iran, and Islamic terrorism and Islamic extremism. He reviles the Jews, both here and in Israel. And so he's been riding this wave of anti-Semitism that, if you've been paying attention, has completely captured the hearts and minds, especially of young progressive Democrats. It's what's propelled Mamdani to power in New York. It's what's propelled AOC to now potentially being a very serious presidential candidate in 2028. It's what's propelled Bernie to become now really the godfather of the Democratic Party. It's why Ilhan Omar is unbeatable now in her district. I could go on and on and on. And so if you look at the Democratic Party, the one thing that to me distinguishes it and defines it, it is animated by anti-Semitism. It is a pure anti-Semitic, Jew-hating party. And that's what Plattner had over Janet Mills. Janet Mills was, doesn't like Israel, wants a Palestinian state, but that's just conventional stuff. To go on about the Jews being the source of all evil, that there's a Jewish conspiracy that must be destroyed in the world, in America, that Jews should be either ethnically cleansed or potentially put into camps, to go on and praise the murder of innocent Jewish civilians in Israel the way Plattner has, or to openly side with the Islamo-fascists in Tehran in a war against us. He's cheering the regime in Iran against our own people, against our own soldiers. He's a former Marine. So he wants American soldiers to be killed and for us to be given a humiliating defeat. That's what really made him stand out from someone like Janet Mills. And that's why politically she couldn't compete with him. The money was pouring in. Bernie was raising money. AOC was raising money. You had Neville Singham, that billionaire American, but he lives in China, whose goal is to bring the communist movement here in America. He's backed by the CCP. Neville Singham is pouring money into Graham Plattner's campaign. George Soros pouring money into Graham Plattner's campaign. So anti-Semitism now, and I think that's why the Nazi tattoo, rather than hurting him, especially the fact that it's an SS tattoo. So it's not just, skull and bones, or he's trying to be edgy. You know, he's trying to break some norms and be a bit of a renegade. You know, the middle finger to the establishment. I got a Nazi tattoo. You know, I'm some tough guy. You know, on my oyster farm. No. He had the SS tattoo. The death's head, as it's called. The Totenkopf. He's serious. He's the real deal. This guy's a real hardcore Jew hater. If need be, put a bullet in the back of their head. That's how you take care of them. That added to his cachet. It added to his popularity. No. He's not lying. He's not pretending to be a Jew hater, an anti-Semite. He is a real hardcore anti-Semite and Jew hater. And for a large group of Democrats, younger Democrats, who have been brainwashed and indoctrinated in our colleges with both communism or Marxism and anti-Semitism, that's the two things now they push relentlessly. He's the perfect guy. He's the perfect guy. And I hate to say this, but I think a lot of young liberal women find anti-Semitism and communism very sexy. And so, and let me throw in a third dimension. Many of you are mentioning it on the text line. Let me mention it on behalf of all of you, because I can't read all the texts, but many of you are making the same point. Look, we have to confront a seminal reality about Western culture, Europeans, and here in North America. In the United States, we're watching now the rise of a younger generation that for the first time in human history, their brains have been, since 10, 11, 12 years old, completely marinated in pornography. I mean, immersed in pornography. I'm not talking your dad's Playboy or Penthouse or, whatever, and you sneak a peek at some naked pictures of women or whatever on the VHS tape or whatever, and let me grab that and take a look and, watch a pornographic film. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about from their brains are underdeveloped from the ages of 10, 11, 12 because of the phone, because of the computer, the internet, because of the iPad, the iPhone, and all these kids have them, nonstop access to computers and screens and the internet. They have been literally raised and reared on nonstop saturation pornography. I know this because teachers and principals say you have no idea how prevalent it is. Jeff, they go, it's everywhere. And they start them young. 9, 10 years old, they're already watching it. And they watch it for hours every day. And this is day after day, week after week, year after year. This notion that pornography to these young kids is harmless is one of the most disgusting, vile lies of our time. To the point now that they have become so desensitized, and it's both men and women. They consume massive amounts of porn. Hours a day. What we used to have, television. Remember growing up, all these American kids, North American kids, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. They're in front of the tube. They're watching TV. It's rotting their brains. Now, I'm holding up a phone as I'm speaking to you. Now it's this in my hand. It's the iPhone. And they're on it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, every day. They're addicted to their phones. It's not just rotting their brains. Now they're watching pornography, and a type of pornography almost unheard of 30, 40 years ago. And so what I think is happening, you can agree or disagree with me, is that you're seeing now this people in their 20s and 30s who have been through this, the first generation, that their brains have become so warped, so shaped, so desensitized because of all of this pornography that they're consuming, that a guy like Graham Plattner, he's sexy. It's like somebody out of a porn movie for them. Oh, he likes to do it in porta potties, even though it's by himself, but it doesn't matter. It's kinky. He likes it. I don't know, maybe he and his wife do it in a porta potty. What I'm saying is, to young people, yeah, what's the problem? What's the problem? It's a sexual fetish. And so we all got sexual fetishes. What's it to you? Oh, he likes the sex to very young women and cheat on his wife or whatever. Hey, what's the problem? It's just the same thing when you watch a pornographic film. The more perverse, the kinkier it is. And so I think what's happening is not only do they not care because they've been so desensitized to it, I think a part of it is almost like it's a turn on. It's like, yeah, that's what a man should be. And forgive me, but women in pornography tend to be often degraded. Well, he likes to slap a woman around. Good. He likes to say women who get raped deserve it. Good. It's what Tommy and Brockton said. You're watching now a generational shift of values, of worldviews, of the way life is seen. And it's not a pretty picture. It's not a pretty picture. Look, the guy's a stone cold lunatic. He's the kind of guy that even 10 years ago and throughout all of American history would have been gone. I mean, gone. The moment the Nazi tattoo came up, just that alone, finished. I don't care. Republican, Democrat, any party, for any campaign, for any seat. That's it. You're gone. Now, it's nothing. It's almost like a badge of honor. Never mind everything else. So to me, I think that explains a lot of why, especially white liberal women, Democrat women, you got to see the rallies. I mean, you thought they were crazy for Bernie. You got to see what this guy. He's like a sexy Bernie for them. And you hear stuff from liberal women like Elizabeth Warren. Now, I know she's not old. She's not young. She's old. But stuff like, she would never say this about anyone else. He's my kind of man. Like, he's a man's man. He's got that Nazi tattoo. He's a Marine. He does this thing in the porta potty. He can slap me around. And we can yell how we hate the Jews and the communist revolution's coming. Down with capitalism. I mean, it's sick. But this guy is becoming a political superstar. And he is, in many ways now, becoming the embodiment. He is the face, the voice, he and AOC, of the new Democratic Party. And their godfather is Bernie Sanders. And that's why Bernie now says the three politicians that he's most proud of, AOC, Mamdani, and now Graham Plattner. You know what I'm thinking? What the hell? I think, you know what? You can't beat them, join them. So if all these libs and Democrats now love the naughty Nazi, as many of you are calling him, which I think is a great name, the naughty Nazi. You know what? I'm going to get a Nazi tattoo. What the hell? Stamp one right on my, mark one right on my chest, baby. And hey, I can run for governor. Hell, I'll run for U.S. Senate. That's how you win now. I'll even flash it. Here you go. Here you go. Vote for me, huh? 617-266-6868 is the number. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Oh boy, did they deserve this one, Bruce. Huh? Did you ever think we'd be at this point? They're voting for Nazis, Bruce. Nazis.
Worse than that, they're voting for, why don't we have Hunter Biden run for president? I mean, come on, dude. This guy should be stripped of all his military privileges. He's backed the Taliban. This is a guy who was supposed to defend the Constitution, domestic and foreign. And he's a domestic terrorist. And he's everything they accuse Trump of being, he is. And Maine is going down the tubes, dude. Just like Portland, Oregon, Portland, Maine. I can't believe that Maine is going to let this happen to them. It's worse than Bernie. He's a Bernie bro. He's a communist, and they let it go into Vermont, and they're letting it go. Pretty soon it'll be going to New Hampshire. They're taking over, Jeff. We can't let them. Wake up, America. He's defunding the police, defund the government, not the government, defund the military. He's everything that we don't want. Get him out. Look what they did to Charlie Kirk. He was a righteous, religious dude. This guy is I can't say, I don't want to get kicked off the air.
He's a scumbag, or if you want, that's a POS. That's what he is. He's a Nazi-loving, anti-American, anti-Semitic, communist piece of you know what. I'm sorry, but that's what he is. You're completely right. Bruce, I got to ask you, what is it with the Democratic Party that has Trump broken them? I mean, this may be the ultimate in Trump derangement syndrome. Because, they're voting for him just because he hates Trump. And he's the most passionate and visceral and intense in his hatred for Trump. So, is this now the ultimate in Trump derangement syndrome, where they're actually going to vote for a Jew-hating Nazi just to stick it to Donald Trump? Is this now what the Democrats have come to? What say you, Bruce?
What I got to say, they're not right in the head. These are sick people. These people should be. That's why the insane asylums should be wide open for these people. They shouldn't be allowed to walk the same streets that we walk because they want criminals and illegals to get more benefits than our guys that fought and lost limbs and they gave the ultimate sacrifice. These guys they want to sacrifice us. These are sick people, Jeff. These are sick people.
Liberalism is a mental disorder. Period. Full stop. Bruce, thank you so much for that call. Brooks in the great state of Florida, the Freedom State. Thanks for holding, Brooks, and welcome.
Yes.
Hi, Brooks.
It used to be Brooks from Maine, but the communism was taking over so much. My wife, Kim, and I decided to pull up the 10 stakes and move to Florida. The liberalism was so bad, Jeff, that just as an example, and you had a caller earlier talk about Portland, and I think you had mentioned that it might be 60% liberal. I think he came off with like 80%. And, we started talking about the demographics and things, but I'll get back to that. But, the Graham Plattner saga in Maine is, it's just the temperature of how evil these Democrats have become. We lived in a little town in mid-coast Maine. It was just quintessential, cobblestone streets and very Norman Rockwell kind of early Americana set.
Brooks, can you please hang on? I really want the audience to hear what you have to say. So please hang on. I'm up against a hard break, but we're going to come right back to Brooks. The naughty Nazi. Why are Democrats voting for him? Okay, I want to go right back to Brooks in Florida. Fascinating call. He and his wife used to live in Maine, couldn't take the crazy left-wing politics, and so they've now moved and obviously are living in Florida. Now, before I go back to Brooks, just very, very quick, because the issue with Graham Plattner, and by the way, something again just broke. I'm telling you're not going to believe it. But that's going to be in the next segment. Another one. Another freaking scandal. I told you, it's a day with this guy. To me, the issue is character. He just lacks the character to be dog catcher. Never mind a U.S. senator. But I want to ask you, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Which do you give more weight in picking a candidate? Character or political party? So when you vote for somebody, what to you is more important? A, character. B, their political affiliation or their political party. I want to hear from you. For me, it's character. That to me is to me, the most important thing when I vote for somebody. If they don't have character, I cannot support that person in good conscience, and so I don't. To me, I always vote on character. To me, character is the number one issue. But again, that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. Again, I was active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. All right, let's go right back to Brooks. Brooks, you were saying you were living in a nice little town in Maine, cobblestone streets, almost like a Norman Rockwell painting in terms of the background, the setting. Sounds honestly beautiful, but you couldn't stay there forever. You had to leave. Why? Please, Brooks, pick up where you left off.
Okay, so yes, you've painted the backdrop correctly. It was, it had a beautiful sea coast setting, very nautical. The town is outside of Rockland. It was a place called Port Clyde. And so, and you talked about it earlier with the youth, their minds becoming just terribly involved with really what I would describe as demonic behavior with pornography and things of that nature. What was happening specifically in Maine, Jeff, is that the younger generation, the youth, became obsessed with communism, became obsessed with spray painting their hair blue and pink. And in particular, there was an organization, and still is, and it's very well funded, called OUT, O-U-T, OUT Maine. And it's for children, and it was beyond sick. And so every little coffee bistro, art museum, getting your groceries, they would ask you, would you like to round up? And so let's say your groceries bill came to $1.49 or, try $149. You'd make it $150, and part of that donation would go to Out Maine, whereby, and I kid you not, you can look it up, this is the Lord's truth, they would demonstrate to children that they might consider becoming something other than a child. They are sexually confused, and Tommy can become a Tammy, and a Tammy can become a Theodore. And so they had these sick indoctrination camps, and to this day they do. And some of their flags, for example, they have all these flags that, kind of give a diagram, if you will, as to their sexual influences. One of them is what's called twinks, and this is to not frighten children that there are some men that are sexually turned on to these children, and it's okay. And and so this is like a normal day in Mid-Coast Maine. So you talked earlier about our kids getting involved in things that 40, 50 years ago didn't exist, and really you're laying the backdrop for good versus evil. But what I wanted to talk about too, Jeff, is that communism, first of all, there's so much to say about this, but the left is just obsessed with their genitalia. That's they just can't get around it. It's all about their sexual appetite, and it's just sickening. I'm just, to me, I look at it and I just think it's a snake, and I want to step on their head. But that's just me. So, yeah.
No, Brooks. You're completely right. Look, I had in fact, she was a professor. Now, wasn't in Maine. She was here in Massachusetts. I don't want to say what college she teaches at. Good friend of Grace's, but, became a good friend of me, myself and the kids and the family, and we got to know each other. And she said, I've been teaching for almost 40 years. And so I asked her, I said, what's the biggest change? And she said, I've got to tell you, yes, the Marxist communist politics has gone insane. It's much worse than it was when she started. But she said, she goes, I don't want to be offensive. We were having dinner. She said, I'm sorry, but it's both the male students and the female students, and of course the professors. They're obsessed, exactly as you put it. It's all about their genitals. And she said, I'm sorry to be crude, but it's, where do I receive it? Where do I stick it? Where do I get it? She goes, that's all it is, nonstop. And their whole identity is based on this. And am I into men? Am I into women? Am I into both? Am I into God knows what else? She goes, that's all it is. And it's class after class, course after course, protest after protest, rally after rally. And it's like there's so much more to life than just, your genitals. I mean, sure, finding the right person, falling in love, getting married, having children, it's a beautiful part of life. But it's all they just, as you put it, it's an obsession. And she said it's so degrading. She goes, honestly, at times it's just gross. And they judge everything through that standard. Everything through that lens. And, she wasn't a religious woman at all. I mean, I think if I had to characterize, I'd say she's agnostic. She's not an atheist. She's not really a believer. She really doesn't know. Smart woman, highly educated woman, did her job very well with a lot of dignity, really knew her material, was a serious professor, like, the ones I had when I was growing up. And she said, I don't normally use this word. She said this, but it's almost demonic. That's the word that she used. I'll never forget it. And she goes, I don't normally use this word because she's quite socially liberal. I mean, not an extreme liberal, but, she's a little bit like, hey, she lives in Boston, a big city, hey, she live and let live. That's her attitude. But she says it's perversion. It's just perverse. Like, it's just stuff where you go, what? I feel dirty. I just feel dirty. You're completely right. And I think it's in these fertile ground, this fertile soil, that Graham Plattner now is clearly tapping into. I think there's no question. It's not just that he's able to ride out every scandal. It's that with every scandal, he gets stronger. It's whatever is evil turns them on even more. That's the bizarre thing. They can relate to him. He's their guy. On every level, he's their guy. And that's why you can sense it. The whole country senses it. It's not just a change in leadership in the Democratic Party, the ideological direction of the Democratic Party. It's clearly now an anti-Semitic, basically now communist party. That's what it's become. But it's now a change in morality, morals, and ethics. There's no question. Graham Plattner, for the Democrats and the left, is the future. Okay, very quickly, because I want to go back to the phone lines. But what I tell you, really, it's a scandal a day with this guy. I mean, literally, it's a scandal a day. So here it is. According to the Main Wire, hat tip to the Main Wire. And Sandy, I'm thinking maybe we should get the editor, Steve Robinson, on, because I think he could give us some great insight into Graham Plattner. But anyway, he does some excellent work, really covers Maine politics extremely well. Well, according now to the Main Wire, this broke, I believe, yesterday or today. But anyway, it's recent. Apparently now, Graham Plattner was discussing buying cocaine in a now deleted Reddit, in fact, in several now deleted Reddit posts. And he apparently on multiple occasions admitted to drug use, heavy cocaine use, and partying it up, quote unquote, while he was backpacking across Europe during paid military leave. And so he was bragging on Reddit, I was making a pretty penny doing just about nothing. And so he says, we went backpacking through Europe on the government's dime, walked the Camino de Santiago, did some drugs, and had a blast partying it up in hostels across the continent. Apparently, this is what Plattner wrote, and he posted this on Reddit under the handle P Hustle, which is, by the way, the common handle that he uses. He uses the same handle for that hookup app that he was on Kik, K-I-K, where he was sexting all these women. And that's where all the pedophiles, they're on Kik as well. And so he uses a P-Hustle handle. And so apparently this was in February of 2020. He says he had no regrets. And in fact, he goes on to discuss that he bought a lot of cocaine and that he did a lot of cocaine. And then in an interaction, I'm summarizing a lot of information here, but he was going back and forth with someone who asked about a Coast Guard seizure of about 12,000 pounds of cocaine, valued at $312 million. And that was sort of the street value. And then Plattner wrote, this was just a couple of years ago. He says, well, I always wonder what street you're buying your cocaine on, because it's not the street I'm buying my cocaine on. So basically he was saying he could get cheaper cocaine, that he knew how to get cocaine that wasn't so expensive. And anyway, he brags about how much cocaine he snorted up his nose. I told you can see the guy's brain damaged. You know, I mean, he admitted to very heavy drinking for many, many, many years. And now it looks like he's been doing a lot of cocaine as well. Now, we're going to see how this plays out. It's another scandal. Older Americans tend to be, anti-drug use, especially the harder drugs. Cocaine, by the way, is illegal. I know marijuana has become increasingly legal in many states. Cocaine is illegal. So he broke the law. And he broke the law often. And he's a cokehead. And now we're going to find out not just was he taking cocaine, but was he dealing cocaine. So like I said, and they're still going to back the guy. But I think there is a point where it's scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal. It's just going to break his back. I mean, there's only so many. There's got to be a certain point where even moonbats and Democrats say, you know what, let's ditch the guy. You know what, Janet Mills, it doesn't look so bad now. 617, the governor of Maine, 617-266-6868. So there you go. And who knows what they're going to find in about 3 hours. This is the latest news. Carol in Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Carol, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Carol.
I just wanted to say here that I hope that Ken's right about his opinion up in Maine there. But I seem to remember years ago when Obama secretly was moving Muslims up there for one aspect for voting. And then I know liberals that start to move up with the intention of we're going to change the color of that state. Then I have a friend who's pagan, whose coven moved up there to have a commune, and they have more people like that having their own type communes and farming and off-the-grid things, imitating what we did in the past as, conservatives or military people living off the grid. So they have changed kind of the culture up there. They're creating, remember, these women, Love Mangione and people like that, the Sarnav brothers, they've been indoctrinated, their malleable brains since youth, where they have no critical thought. So you have a state that people have decided to move out instead of running against them. If you need to, if opposes them, do a write-in vote, and have a write-in campaign right before the election if they're unopposed. We need to do that here in other states. Stand up instead of running away.
Carol, you're completely right. Absolutely, not 100, 1,000% correct. Carol, I want to ask you this, and frankly, I want to ask the whole audience, because everything you said is true. You're right. Maine is a lot like Vermont in that way. A lot of these communes, they started to form them up there, communist communes, former hippies. And so you could see they're becoming more left-wing, more radical. more amenable to, say, the Bernie Sanders of the world. Okay, that I get. Okay, I don't like it. I disagree with it, obviously. But okay, I understand that's what's happening. This is what I don't understand. And I'm really, from the heart, I'm in the confessional. I don't get this. You know, the hippies, the worst thing you could be called by them was a Nazi. Nixon was a Nazi. America, according to them, was fascist America, but the C was a K. In other words, to be a fascist, to be a Nazi, my God, that's the one thing. That's the one evil. That's the one political group that you have to oppose with everything in your being. And so for them, Reagan, Nazi fascist. Bush 43, ditto, Nazi fascist. Trump, it's been 10 years, Carol. You know better than I do. Nazi, fascist, white supremacist. So you've had 50, 60 years of this. The one thing, it is verboten on the left, is to have any ties, any links whatsoever to being a Nazi. Here, and just to emphasize this point, can you imagine if Graham Plattner was a Republican? Can you imagine any Republican candidate, for a local city council, never mind Congress, never mind the U.S. Senate, a Nazi SS death's head tattoo on their chest for 18 years and only covers it up because they decide to run for office the year before they're going to run, like last year? They would be going apoplectic, ballistic. It would be 24/7. The whole party would be branded supporters of Hitler. Conservatives are all Hitler. You wouldn't hear the end of it. It would be the crisis of all crises, scandals of all scandals. But all of a sudden now, this guy's a Nazi and a Jew hater and a racist and a supporter of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Islamofascist Ayatollahs in Iran. They throw gays and lesbians off of buildings, for God's sake. You don't get more homophobic than those guys. And yet they love him. My question to you, when did the left and Democrats suddenly fall in love with Nazis? What's your theory, Carol?
I think as they started to have more podcasts and people were spewing all their free stuff, and they got into the schools probably more so around the mid-2000s, because it was Obama's time, on that they started to indoctrinate more, and they were working people into all the communists and people of these beliefs into schools, into all the areas where it affected society. That's when it started to happen. And these kids were left to their own devices during COVID, and their brains became more malleable as they became more mentally disturbed, being isolated. And the people that were on these sites are more the perverts, the communists, or the socialists, the people that want to warp us, and then China and the ilk of, maybe, the Iran and all those people working against and funding organizations, George Soros.
Interesting. No, Carol, look, you're right. It began under Obama, the shift. It did. Slowly but surely. It was almost imperceptible at first. But this alliance between the radical communist left or the radical socialist left, whatever you want to call it, with radical Islam, and you mentioned Iran and others, and Islamists, the biggest selling book in every Muslim country outside of the Quran it's Mein Kampf. Hitler is still widely admired, and not just in Iran, in many, many Muslim countries. They see him as a man who stood up to the little Satan, to the Jews. And many of them say, we're going to finish what Hitler started. And they're virulently, profoundly, deeply anti-Semitic. So, Hitler threw 6 million into the gas ovens. Great. I mean, according to them. Great. That's our guy. So, in other words, so what's happening is it's almost like part of the Islamization of the left. You know what they say? When you dance with the devil, you don't end up seducing the devil ends up seducing you. So the radical left got in bed with radical Islam because they said, hey, we share a common enemy, the United States of America. So let's join forces. But what's happening now is they're becoming more and more Islamicized, more anti-Semitic, more anti-Jewish, obviously more anti-American. Now, I mean, staunchly anti-Israel, fanatically anti-Israel, and increasingly now, slowly but surely, pro-Nazi, pro-Hitler. I think that's what's starting to happen. And now it's almost cool and sexy. It's a thing now to have a Nazi swastika and to be a Jew hater among the left, especially the younger ones. Carol, thank you very much for that call. I really, really appreciate it. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff, for taking the call.
My pleasure, Dan.
I agree with everything that you've said this morning, but the things that you've left out, which are really very important, is that the Democratic Party, the lunatic left, what they're lacking is a masculine figure, a macho man. You can't think of one in the party. And to have him think of the values the way that they think, he is the absolute best, perfect candidate. They couldn't ask for any more. It doesn't matter how many accusations are going to be made against this man. They love him. They love his look. They love his raspy voice. He looks like he came out of a potato field or off of a boat. He has that image. Much like the image in a different way, Obama had charisma. He had good looks. He could speak well. That fit where he belonged. In Maine, they want a rough, tough, gruff Mainer, Yankee, and he looks it. But what comes out of his mouth is music to their ears. And believe me, all the scandals in the world aren't going to stop him from winning. But I'll tell you where the Republicans have really let their defenses down. Look at who we're going to run against them. Collins. She's a dried up old prune, unfortunately. That's what she is. She does not exonerate strength the way that this guy does because he's macho, comes across that way, masculine. She is milquetoast beside him. And I'm afraid that she's going to get eaten like milquetoast. We needed a candidate in Maine that exonerated strength, some wisdom, some yankiness. And she's not it. She's just not it. So there is really nothing to stop this guy. All of what comes out isn't going to matter because he has an image. And if you notice, all the young women love him. I bet you all of the gay people in Portland and Bar Harbor, they'd love to get their hands on him. And even the trans, too. So bottom line, he has appeal, no matter what his values are, because let's face it, all his values are what they love. So he's the next coming. I can tell you that right now. Look at how many people in that party are milquetoast. People like Tallarico and a lot of the other candidates, they don't exonerate any strength. They don't exonerate a man's man. This guy, unfortunately, does. And unfortunately, he's a lunatic. So the bottom line is here, where we dropped the ball, we should have had another candidate that would run against Susan, basically knock her out, have something in strength, more appeal. Janet Mills, another dried up prune. She's got nothing. She's lacking because, let's face it, he comes across as a he-man. Women love him. Some of the liberal men love him. The few Yankee guys that are farmers, fishermen, regular workers, they don't have enough of them. And that's why this guy's going to win.
Dan, very perceptive. I have to say, really perceptive. Most Democrat men that run for office are very effete, effeminate. You're completely right. You know, you mentioned Tallarico. I could go on and on, but you're right. This guy is their macho man. And I think that's a big reason why they love him. He's, you know, what they call toxic masculinity. But he's masculine. He's rugged. You're completely right. He's got a great PR team around him. And on top of that, Collins, look, she's a rhino's rhino. Conservatives really don't like her. Many Republicans have felt betrayed by her again and again and again. So there's no enthusiasm among the Republican base to go out there, fight for her, vote for her, campaign for her. So I think that's why you're right. She's soft. She's vulnerable. She's been around forever. As you put it, a dried up prune. She does come across as a corrupt part of the establishment. So she's very weak, very, very beatable. And this guy, you know, he's saying, I'm going to wreck the entire establishment. We're going to overthrow the establishment. And I'm going to, and he's promising the voters the moon. I'm going to, you want free health care for everybody? You got it. You want this state inundated with illegals? You got it. You want to defund and abolish the police? You got it. You want to abolish ICE? You got it. You want me to impeach Trump? You got it. You want me to start going after conservatives and we'll start putting them in jail? You got it. You want me to start, we'll go after private property? You want me to confiscate the rich or the property of the rich or the middle class and give to all of you? You got it. So he's appealing to envy. He's appealing to their greed. He's appealing to their hatred of Trump. And there you've got Susan Collins. Republicans aren't crazy about her. Democrats say she's not anti-Trump enough. She should be voting against him more than she does, even though, by the way, she helped to tank the SAVE Act as one example of many. So she's kind of in a no man's land or a no woman's land. So, her base is weak and it's soft and there's no passion. His base, it's all passion driven by hatred and envy. And I think you're right, Dan. I think he's going to survive revelation after revelation after revelation. I mean, eventually, maybe something will sink him. I don't know if it's going to be underage girls. I don't know if it's a rape accusation. I mean, I don't know. But now it's cocaine. That's the latest. Now it's heavy cocaine use. I mean, it doesn't stop with this guy. And look, the only thing that Susan Collins has going for her, and it's not a small thing, whatever you think about Susan Collins, and Dan, I'm not a big fan of hers, but she does deliver the bacon for the people of Maine. She's the way Ted Kennedy was for Massachusetts. So, yeah, she stabs Trump in the back. It's true. Yeah, she's, always sabotaging conservatives. Yes. But you need a bridge, she delivers. You need a school. You need a hospital. You need help with your fisher, and let's say for fishermen or whatever. She brings home the bacon. She brings home the pork. She brings home the spending. She takes care of her constituents. And that's my only explanation for why it's been several elections now where she's behind in the polls. And yet on election day, she always somehow manages to pull it out. Because I think they go, I don't like her. There's not much to her. She's like a puff of smoke. No charisma, no personality. Owned by the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, they own her lock, stock, and barrel. Clearly a corrupt politician. But, the potholes, she brought home the money. That school, we needed the school. She brought home the money. We needed those roads up in northern Maine. Guess who helped us with the infrastructure? Yep. She pulled some strings and the cash came in. Let's pull the lever for her. So that may be her ace in the hole. That may be the only thing that saves her. We shall see. Dan, thank you very much for that call. I got to say, the callers are on fire today. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Many of you want me to also use not just the naughty Nazi, but the porta potty Nazi. Okay, Sandy is not happy with me. She's upset with me. She says my nicknames are off, that they're not appropriate when I call him the naughty Nazi or the porta potty Nazi or porta potty Platner. Why? Because she says they're quote unquote too cute. You're diminishing, in her words, and I think she's got a point, quote, what an evil bastard, unquote, he is. And so if you're going to call him a nickname, no naughty Nazi, no porta potty Nazi, you got to tattoo him with a nickname that's really sort of exposes and identifies just how evil, vile this guy is. So I'm thinking just a straight Nazi. Yeah, Nazi's good enough. That's what he is. So just call him the Nazi. That's all So, that's how he's going to be known, at least for, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, very, very quickly. This is from 202. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. Jeff, what are Platner's preferred pronouns? He/Himmler. Oh, touche, 202. Tony in Florida. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Fellow Patriot. Good morning, Jeff. And,
Tony.
Yes, good morning, my fellow Patriot. And Jeff, I promise not to go off topic. I just want to say, as I've said before, I've been with President Trump ever since he came down that escalator, June of 2015. I've never wavered. I've never waffled. I've always been behind him. And I just want to say to everybody, don't worry. He's going to have this Iran thing wrapped up in plenty of time. And he's always 100 steps ahead of everybody else. So don't worry. He's going to bring this victory home in a big way. And we'll be ready to go for the midterms, Jeff. Going on to this evil scumbag there in Maine. I mean, unbelievable. Graham Platner. I can't even believe this guy with the Nazi tattoo. I mean, it's pure evil. But, if you look at it, Jeff, he's really a microcosm of the situation here in this country right now, Jeff. You're really looking at, and it's more glaring than it's ever been, Jeff. And we really have two Americas. It's so clear. It's crystal clear. We have two Americas, but really they are in the minority, Jeff. So, I mean, this is just one guy amongst many of them that have come out, and if you look at them, again, I really feel like they are the minority, but if you look at it really, Jeff, they're the party of the criminal. They're the party of the illegal alien. And everything about them is evil. And they've turned so radical and so extreme left that I just can't see people going in and voting for them. When they get in the voting booth, they're just going to be like, they just have gone too far. And, and if you look at it really, Jeff, as far as the illegal aliens go, that is their voting base. And that's why they're freaking out and having these bought and paid for rallies in Newark, New Jersey. And you see these blue state governors and blue state mayors just going crazy for these illegal aliens because that's all they have to cling on to. That really is their voting base. And, so that's what they're panicking about. Every time there's a deportation, they lose a vote, and so, but I really think in the grand scheme of things, Jeff, they really are in the minority. I think that, the support for President Trump and the MAGA movement is overwhelmingly the majority in this country. And, we're going to really show it in the midterms. It's going to be a record turnout. We're going to expand the lead in the Senate, expand the lead in the House. President Trump is going to bring all our troops home from Iran, and with a huge victory. By the time the midterms come, Jeff, we're looking at gas prices closer to $2 a gallon, maybe a little over $2, but it's already coming down a little bit now. The market is going wild already, so there are great things coming up here, and these crazy people. This guy in Maine, Jeff, I'll tell you, we vacationed many times up in Maine. It's a beautiful state, and I can't imagine somebody like that winning and just completely destroying such a beautiful state. I mean, the Lakes region up there. I know I hear Eddie from Sebago Lake calling up, and it really strikes a chord. He sounds like such a great guy, and we've spent many a summers up there in that area and stuff. So,
Tony, you're completely right. I mean, I can only echo what you're saying. Look, Grace and I and the kids, we've been to Maine multiple times. Gorgeous. It's just a beautiful, gorgeous state. And I have to say, I mean, you do see the flags, the transgender flags, the rainbow flags, and, the bumper stickers, the anti-Trump bumper stickers. You do see a little, especially in the Portland area. But most Mainers that I've met, at least that I've met, good, decent, salt of the earth people, this guy's going to destroy their state. If they elect him, their reputation is never going to recover. Like, I don't think they realize they're really flirting with disaster. They're going to vote for a Nazi. And what I don't get, I really don't, is how do you go from accusing Trump of being a Nazi nonstop, every day, every hour for the last 10 years, and then boom, at the drop of a hat. Okay, I want to go to Jeffrey in Portland. Let me ask all of you this question. Are the Democrats now, by fully embracing Graham Plattner, and I mean all in, are they committing political suicide? A Nazi with an SS tattoo, a self-described communist, a virulent and self-avowed Jew hater and anti-Semite. Never mind all the, the porta potties, the sexual fetishes, now this sexting scandal. I mean, now the drug abuse, the cocaine. I could go on. Women deserve to be raped. Those that get raped, they deserve it. I could go on and on and on and on and on. Okay, but this man is now going to be in many ways the face, the voice, the poster child of this new socialist, anti-Semitic Democratic Party. I look at this and I'm like, I think this party's about to jump off the cliff. Am I wrong? Or has the country that fundamentally changed that much? I understand about young people being indoctrinated in colleges, universities. I get it. We talked a little bit about the porn culture and how it's impacting especially younger people. Okay, I get that. And the rise in anti-Semitism, again, especially among younger people, college students, university students. Okay, I get that. But is this the future direction of the country? In other words, let me put it to you, as bluntly as I can. Are we going to go the direction of National Socialism? Are we now in some ways reliving the 1930s? Or are the Democrats now committing political hiri-kiri? Jeffrey in Portland. Thanks for holding, Jeffrey, and welcome.
Yes, this is Jeffrey calling from Chelsea, Massachusetts. I don't know why they said Portland, but let that go.
Okay. I thought I had somebody from Portland, Maine. Mike. Mike. How the hell do you get Portland, Maine from Chelsea, Massachusetts? Mike, hello? Anyway, he's very excited in defense of Mike. He's very excited that the Patriots have gotten Brown, this wide receiver, and he thinks they're going to be very competitive again for the Super Bowl. So he's very excited about the trade. And so Mike has been on a high all morning, and his mind is now on Super Bowls for the New England Patriots. So in defense of Mike. All right, Jeff in Chelsea, Mass. My apologies to you. Go, my friend.
Thank you. Now, as far as Platten is concerned, we have to look at the big picture, which is leftist, communist, Democrats across the board. What is the commonality of why people would vote for these evil people? Because it's money, it's bacon. Obama could have a turban on his head and openly admit, I am a Muslim born in Kenya, and people would still vote for him. You know why? Because Obama will give money to the people group that he's representing. It's all about the tribe. It's not about America. It's about the tribe. If I belong to a black or Hispanic department, I'm going to vote for that guy because he belongs to me, and I'm going to get moolah from this guy. People in Maine are voting for Plattner because it's all about the tribe. Plattner will give people the moolah if they vote for him. That's what it's all about. We have turned into squabbling tribes, something that President Theodore Roosevelt warned us against, which is we're not to be hyphenated Americans, just plain Americans, and we are heading down a deadly road of Bosnian-style infighting, just like the Balkans War back in the 90s. What do you think, Jeff?
Oh, that's my fear. I mean, what you laid out is truly my fear of where the left is taking us. And look, just look at Plattner. I mean, if you're Jewish, do you feel safe with this guy now, potentially in the U.S. Senate, bolstered by AOC and Mamdani and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar? I could go on and on. If you're Armenian or of Armenian descent, this guy now is railing against the Armenians, saying that genocide never happened. He's basically, the equivalent of a genocide or a Holocaust denier. I mean, with this guy, when he starts talking about putting conservatives in camps, or when Paul Krugman now is talking about the de-MAGification of America, I mean, this is, was one of the biggest columnists at the New York Times. Has a massive following among the left and Democrats. They read him religiously. And now he's saying, no, just as we had denazification after World War II in Germany, we need now de-MAGification once Trump is impeached and removed from office and the Democrats sweep back to power. I mean, they're trying everything everything they can to balkanize us, to divide us, to pit group against group. I mean, they're getting ugly very fast. And they're embracing a authoritarian, totalitarian style of politics very, very fast. And I'll tell you this, Jeff, the guy that I don't get is Bernie Sanders. Like, I mean, I get his Bolshevism. I get that, his socialism, his communism, his Bolshevism, his crazy politics. I get that. But, Bernie is Jewish. He claims to be proudly Jewish. I've never seen any evidence for that, but let that go. But, he claims to be Jewish. His parents were Jewish. Ancestors were Jewish. He's the one that blessed Graham Plattner. He came over there. He didn't just give him an endorsement. He said, this man is the future of the Democratic Party, him and AOC and Mamdani. Mamdani's a vicious anti-Semite. Graham Plattner, I mean, I don't know how much worse you can get. Again, the Death's Head tattoo. Okay, those were the SS squads, the Einsatzgruppen, as they were called, that went into Poland and Ukraine, and I'm talking mass grave after mass grave, pit after pit, full of dead Jewish bodies. They massacred them by the thousands every day. Every day. It was Jewish kids, Jewish women, Jewish babies, Jewish old women, old men. It didn't matter. And that's the tattoo that of these executioners, these butchers, these are exterminationists, these savages. And that's the tattoo that he had on his chest for 18 years. And by the way, had on his chest when Bernie initially endorsed him. And then when he saw that his campaign took off like a rocket ship, that's when he covered up the tattoo. So when Bernie endorsed him at that time, maybe Bernie didn't know he had the tattoo, I don't know. But the point is, he had the Nazi tattoo on his chest. And he said, this is my heir apparent right here, along with Mamdani and AOC. This is the future of the Bolshevik communist socialist movement in America. He's the guy. Here, I want to play a cut. I want to get all of your reaction. This is Bernie now, interviewed by Axios, a liberal news site. And they're saying, you're Jewish, Bernie. You've been railing against Nazism, fascism, Hitler. It's always fascism in America. Trump is Hitler. And yet you're backing a guy like Plattner? Mr. Nazi Tattoo? Roll cut 9, Mike.
I'm not overly impressed by a squad of media running around saying, what do you think about the tattoo on Graham Plattner's chest? Between you and me, there might be one or two more important issues. But let me go there. I'm not Graham's best friend. I met him several times. We did a rally in Portland, Maine, a great rally. I am impressed by the guy. This is a guy who has served 4 tours of duty with the United States military. He was in the middle of some heavy-duty combat. He was a machine gunner. He went through some very difficult experiences in the military as a machine gunner, seeing his friends killed. Came out of the military. He will acknowledge, I'm not telling you what he doesn't say, he had PTSD. He went to the VA, and by the way, what he says, they rebuilt his life. All right. He went into a dark period in his life. I suspect that Graham Plattner is not the only American to have gone through a dark period.
Holy mackerel. I mean, he's turning himself into a pretzel to try to defend the indefensible and justify the unjustifiable. So what? The PTSD made him a Nazi for 18 years? Iraq made him into a Nazi for 18 years? How come all these other people who served the tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan? Here, I've got Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent out in Pittsburgh. Okay, this story is breaking as I speak to you now. I kid you not. Graham Plattner is now scheduled to meet with Senate Democrats in Washington, D.C. Every single Senate Democrat is going to be meeting with him. Apparently, they're going to be strategizing on how to put him over the top in November. It is Operation Now Rescue Graham Plattner in the midst of these recent sexting, scandal that has embroiled his campaign. The Democrats believe not just that Maine is winnable, but that Maine holds the key to them retaking back the Senate. And they believe that Plattner is a star, a rising star, and that they must get him over the finish line. So he will be meeting with them. And apparently, he's now, it appears he's going to get the full endorsement of Chuck Schumer as well. So they're all now going to jump on the Plattner bandwagon. So that's the absolute latest. He's meeting with the entire Democratic caucus in the Senate Democrats in Washington, and they are going to give him every help they can, financially, politically, you name it. It's all hands on deck. They want him to win no matter what the cost. Octavio in Vermont. Thanks for holding, Octavio, and welcome.
Mi amor, ¿qué te pasa, brother?
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Jeff. I'm doing great. Wow, it's so great I called in again. It's been over a year since I've called in.
I know. It's been a while. It's great to have you back. Octavio, did you ever think in your life that your, Maine neighbors, Vermont, right? So that your, that your neighbors in Maine are on the cusp of electing a Nazi to the U.S. Senate. What say you?
Ay, ay, ay. Listen, Jeff, the fact these Democrats are even back in this an anomaly of a candidate. Oh, my God, listen. I am very fearful for this country, Jeff. This is like a communist takeover of our beloved country. I mean, what the heck is going on? It's like the Twilight Zone. Am I in the Matrix?
It seems like it, doesn't it? It really does. It feels like it is the Twilight Zone. Octavio, look, it looks like Maine is becoming now almost identically politically to Vermont. Bernie runs Vermont. That's his fiefdom. He's now spreading his empire across the Democratic Party, and now it's going into Maine. Octavio, what is it about Maine that you think is making so many of these, especially younger voters, want to pull the lever for a guy like Plattner? I mean, do you, just to back it up a little bit, why is Bernie so popular in Vermont? And why does it seem that Plattner now is going to be replicating Bernie's political magic in Maine? What's your theory?
Thanks for the easy question. Well, I can tell you one thing about Maine. A very good friend of mine recently passed away in Maine. And our friendship became very tight over the past, 8 months because I adopted his chihuahua because he knew he was dying. But what I'm getting at is this. He would tell me the craziest things that's going on in Maine. And they've been completely taken over by moonbats. And, sorry, the chihuahuas. It's a tough question. I can't answer it. And as for Bernie, oh, my God, he's a hero out here in Vermont. The only thing he's missing out here is a cape.
Well, Octavio, what is he? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I know you're not a Bernie guy, but what is it? Okay, I get it. They like his views. They're more left wing. A lot of hippies went to Vermont many decades ago and basically said, we're going to take over the state. I get that. But concretely, what does he do for Vermont? I mean, does he bring back money for roads and bridges and hospitals and schools? Like, concretely, what does he do for the people of Vermont? As you put it, they want to put a cape on the guy. Does he bring back money?
Listen, I've been a Vermonter now for 12 years, and my situation is dire. I am a disabled veteran on SSDI. I cannot tell you how things have gotten out of control when it comes to paying my bills and budget. But let that go. Bernie, he's like everybody's grandfather. He's like, that's my granddaddy. I can't get it, Jeff. But they really do look up to this guy. I got a job.
Oh, yeah, they love the guy. Oh, and Octavio, by the way, thank you again for your service. And I'm very sorry to hear about what's going on. It's outrageous.